Ghost Hustle Horror presents the Kandahar Giant. The lights buzzed overhead, casting a cold pallor across the concrete walls of the room. Sergeant David Reeves sat slumped at the metal table, his uniform caked in dried blood and dessert dust. His hands, still trembling, were cuffed in front of him. Across the table sat two high-ranking officers, General Harlan and Colonel Briggs. Both wore expressionless masks beneath their crisp dress uniforms. General Harlan leaned forward slightly, folding his hands. "What the hell happened out there, son?" Reeves didn't answer at first. His eyes were unfocused, distant, like he was still somewhere in the mountains. A muscle in his jaw twitched. He blinked slowly. "You wouldn't believe me," he said at last, voice hoarse and cracked. "But I'll tell you anyway." They had been tracking the Taliban fighters for hours. A small cell, 6 or 7 men, moving fast through the Kandahar mountains. The squad moved in tight formation across sun-blasted ridges and dry riverbeds, boots kicking up fine powdery dust with every step. The heat was oppressive, the sun hanging overhead like a molten coin. Reeves had felt it in his bones. That kind of exhaustion that goes past the physical, settles in your skull. This was supposed to be a clean operation. Trap them, neutralize, extract. When they spotted the cave halfway up the ridge, they knew they had them. There was no other exit. Just that gaping black hole in the cliffside, like a wound torn into the mountain. Captain Nichols gave the signal, and the 8-man team moved in, boots crunching on loose stone as they stacked along the rock walls. That's when the gunfire started. Short bursts, AK-47s echoing from deep inside the cave. The squad froze, exchanging tense glances. They hadn't even engaged yet. Then came the screams. Not the kind they were used to, not the shouted Arabic of fighters under fire. These were different, inhuman, raw. Screams that sounded like they were being torn from someone's soul, men howling like animals, and then it stopped. Silence. The kind of silence that makes your skin crawl. They held position. Every heartbeat felt like a hammer in Reeves's chest, and then something flew out of the cave. It spun through the air and landed hard in front of them with a wet, meaty slap. Reeves looked down. It was a man, or what was left of one. Just the upper half. The torso had been torn clean at the gut, shredded ribs jutting through mangled flesh, his insides spilled out in thick ropes. The face was twisted in agony. The arms were gone, nothing left but ragged, bloody stumps. Rodriguez staggered back, whispering curses. Reeves couldn't move, couldn't speak. The cave entrance darkened. Something massive moved inside, and then it stepped out. It stooped low, ducking under the rocky lip of the cave before rising to its full height, and Reeves felt his guts twist. It was a giant, 13 feet tall at least, covered in muscle so dense it looked carved from stone. Its skin was the color of sun-scorched leather, stretched taut over bulging limbs. Tangled red hair hung in greasy mats past its shoulders and down its broad chest. Its face was almost human, but only almost. The brow was heavy, the nose wide and flat. Its eyes glowed with a sickly yellow light. It sniffed the air like a predator, nostrils flaring. Then its mouth opened, revealing rows of jagged yellow teeth. Too many teeth, too thick, too long. In its hand it held a spear. It wasn't ornamental. It wasn't primitive. It was a weapon, stone or bone, black as obsidian, nearly as tall as Reeves. The giant roared. The sound vibrated through the rocks, through Reeves's bones. And then it moved. Before anyone could react, the spear flew through the air and struck Sims in the chest. The impact lifted him off his feet and slammed him against the cliff wall. The stone cracked behind him. His body twitched once, then went still. The squad opened fire, M4s, saws, grenades. The air filled with the crack of gunfire and screams. Miller charged forward but never got close. The giant grabbed him by the ankle, lifted him like a toy, and swung him into Rodriguez. The two men collapsed together in a sickening heap of limbs and blood. The bullets tore chunks of flesh from the creature. Reeves saw blood, thick and dark, spray the rocks. But it didn't stop. It didn't even slow. Henley tried to run. The giant caught him mid-stride, one hand clamping down on his helmet. It squeezed. Reeves heard the wet crunch of bone, watched blood leak from Henley's ears before the body went limp and was tossed aside like garbage. Ellis was screaming, his leg gone below the knee. Blood sprayed with each heartbeat as he crawled backwards, leaving a dark trail behind him. The giant turned its eyes on Reeves. He fired. Round after round. Reloaded. Fired again. The beast staggered. dropped to one knee. Blood poured from half a dozen wounds. For a second, Reeves believed, and then it roared again, grabbed Rodriguez's broken corpse and swung it like a club. Henley's lifeless body smashed against the rocks, splitting open. Blood soaked the ground. More grenades, more gunfire, chaos, dust, screams. And then, finally, the giant fell, face first into the dirt. The ground trembled with its weight. Silence again. Reeves stood alone, drenched in sweat and blood, his hands shaking. His breath ragged. Around him, his squad lay broken, torn apart. Minutes passed. Then came the sound of rotor blades. 2 black helicopters descended into the canyon. No markings, no insignia. Men in black tactical gear disembarked. Faces covered. They moved fast, precise, professional. They didn't speak to Reeves. They wrapped the giant's body in thick tarps, loaded it onto the chopper. Took everything, Reeves's weapon, his team's gear, even bloodied rocks from the ground. As they worked, one of them passed close to Reeves. He heard the man mutter, almost to himself. Another one recovered. This one's big. Reeves blinked, coming back to the present. The interrogation room was silent. Colonel Briggs sat still, watching him. General Harlan looked thoughtful. He held the story together, Briggs said after a long pause. Didn't flinch once. Harlan nodded slowly. Then he drew a suppressed pistol from under the table. A shame there were no survivors. He fired once. Reeves's head jerked back. His body slumped, lifeless. Blood began to spread across the table and down to the floor. Neither officer reacted. Briggs stood and straightened his jacket. "Erase the footage," Harlan said calmly, holstering the weapon. They walked out, the door clicking shut behind them. The room was silent once more.